Good evening, students. How are you guys? So, as I told you last time, students, we are starting a new chapter today, chapter number 6, that is audit documentation. And this is one of the shortest chapters in your syllabus, and it is first chapter of second module. So contains, it consists of about 20 odd pages. So we shall be finishing this chapter today itself, irrespective of its number of pages, irrespective of its length. Nonetheless, the concept of audit documentation is very, very important in the context of auditing and for auditors. So students, this chapter audit documentation is largely based upon Essay 230, which goes by the identical name, that is audit documentation. So what does Essay 230 deal with? Essay 230 deal with auditor's responsibility to prepare audit documentation while performing an audit of financial statements. So it means that during the course of audit, the auditor has to prepare audit documentation in accordance with the requirements of Essay 230. Clear, guys? So before we proceed, students, can you tell me what is the meaning of the term documentation? What is the meaning of this word documentation? Or first tell me what is the meaning of term document? To document. So if I say that you should document it, what does this mean? Yes, you can send your responses on BOS mail, students. Yes, to record. Pranav, you are right, to give in writing, to record. Sanya, you are also stating correctly. So when you put something in writing, we in common language call it as to document, so that it can be used as a record. Okay. So audit documentation is simply all what the audit procedures have been performed by the auditor, whatever the results he has obtained, and whatever the um, important matters which have come to his notice during the course of audit, he has to document it, he has to put it into writing. Okay. So guys, technically Essay 230 defines audit documentation as a combination of three things. That is, number one, record of audit procedures performed. Number two, record of relevant audit evidence obtained. And number three, conclusions the auditor reached. So it is a combination of all these three things. It is a record of all these three things. So always keep in your mind Definition of audit documentation as per SA 230. You have to remember this definition. It is going to help you in not only in answering descriptive questions, but also MCQs, in MCQs when you would be in doubt. Clear, students? So it is a very simple chapter, but as I am telling you, the concept is very, very important. So the issues are simple, but the concept is very, very important. So the definition of audit documentation as per SA 230 is clear to you, students? Again, I am repeating. So let us see what is written in your module. So audit documentation refers to the record of audit procedures performed. One thing, relevant audit evidence obtained, and conclusions the auditor reached. Terms such as working papers or work papers are also sometimes used. So sometimes we say audit working papers or work papers. So it basically conveys the same thing, audit documentation. So the point I am trying to emphasize is that whatever the auditor has done during the course of audit as part of his audit procedures, he has to record it. He has to put it into writing. And whatever relevant audit evidence he has obtained by performing such audit procedures, this he has also to put into writing. This he has also to document it. And on the basis of audit evidence obtained, whatever conclusions he has reached, these have also to be put into writing. These have also to be documented. So this is the textbook definition of audit documentation as per SA 230. Now, students, think from your own logic that what could be the purpose of audit documentation, or what could be the, say, advantage of audit documentation. Why there is a separate essay relating to audit documentation? Why so much importance is being given to it? Yes. Yes, anyone? Yes, give your responses on BOS mail, guys. Do not see from the module. That anyway you would be reading from your module. Just try to connect the dots logically. So you have finished first module, and about 55 to 60% of syllabus you have already finished, and you are now well versed with what an audit is all about and how an auditor performs his work. Yes. Yes, Ritika, you are right. It would act as a proof later when needed. Dot on, very good. For proper evidence, yes, Aisha, that is also correct. That it would show that audit was conducted in a proper manner in accordance with standards on auditing. Fixing responsibility for the work performed, yes, that is also true. Amit Mahalakshmi is also stating it acts as evidence. Evidence against professional misconduct, yes. So probably what Amit is trying to write, that if there is some If there is some case of professional misconduct, then audit documentation can prove to be handy for the auditor. It can come to his rescue if he has maintained audit documentation meticulously. Okay. Yes, Tejaswin, yes, okay, you are right. Seti Pavan Kumar, protect the auditor. So protect the auditor means it is not some sort of excuse, but rather it is a proof. It is a proof that audit was indeed conducted in accordance with the standards on auditing. Okay. Yes, Tejaswin, also in planning of the audit, it helps. Yes. And Tambeshwari, what you are writing, future inconsistent with the party. So that is not correct. What you are trying to convey is not correct. Probably you are trying to write something else, but your choice of words doesn't seem to be proper. Yes. Any more guesses? Yes, guys, any more guesses? So what you have to do in such simple concepts, that despite that you know the issue at hand, still you have to remember 4 or 5 points. Say something comes in the exam, sometimes simple questions also come, so that under examination conditions, uh, if you had remembered, then such points can quickly come to your mind and you can score the marks. Yes. Anybody else? Yes. Any other thoughts, students? No. So we shall go to your module and see what is written there. So purpose of audit documentation. So purpose of audit documentation. These these itself become uh, benefits or advantages of audit documentation. So assisting the engagement team to plan and perform the audit for future references, assisting members of engagement team to direct and supervise the audit and discharge their review responsibilities. So we shall come to this later on. Enabling the engagement team to be accountable for its work, as one of you has written, to fix accountability, because it is one of the important parts of audit documentation to record that which work was performed by whom and when it was performed. Okay. So it enables the engagement team to be accountable for its work, meaning that different members of the engagement team can be held accountable. Their responsibility can be fixed. Like that Mr. A attended the physical inventory count. Okay. So he is responsible for the audit procedures performed during the physical inventory count. Okay. So retaining a record of matters of continuing significance to future audits, enabling conduct of quality control reviews and inspections in accordance with SQC1. Now, SQC1, students, standard on quality control, you would be getting an overview of it in last chapter, chapter 11. So, say if some inspection is being carried out by the regulator, say by the ICAI or by some other authority, so then such um, uh, audit documentation helps in conduct of such quality control reviews and inspections. And it would again go on to show that audit was indeed carried out, it was indeed planned and performed in accordance with the standards on auditing and respective legal requirements, enabling the conduct of external inspections. So this point is also connected with this. So I have already described it. So what are the objectives of auditor in accordance with SA 230? So the objective of auditor is to prepare audit documentation that provides, number one, a sufficient and appropriate record of the basis of auditor's report. So remember guys, in chapter 1 you had read objectives of independent auditor in SA 200. So what you had read, that objective of an auditor of financial statements is to express an opinion on the financial statements. Okay, so whatever procedures that have been performed by the auditor during the course of audit, so these have to be recorded and by the auditor, these have to be put into writing. So it acts as a basis for the conclusions which have been reached by the auditor, and on the basis of which an auditor forms his or her opinion, and uh, which becomes the basis for expression of opinion, which becomes the basis of issuing an auditor's report. So the objective of auditor is to prepare audit documentation that provides, number one, this, a sufficient and appropriate record of the basis for the auditor's report and the evidence that the audit was planned and performed in accordance with standards on auditing and applicable legal and regulatory requirements. Obviously, the auditor would be performing the audit in accordance with the standards on auditing and the relevant law, relevant legislature, relevant regulatory requirements. Like if it is a company, then Companies Act 2013 is applicable, and all the legal requirements relating to companies are applicable. Yes, guys, clear? So the meaning of audit documentation and why it is important, what are its objectives, what are its purposes, is clear to you guys? Yes, drop a mail, students. Yes, students. Okay, that's fine. Now we come to form, content, and extent of audit documentation. We have understood the meaning of audit documentation. Now we come to form, content, and extent of audit documentation. Now, what does this mean? This means that in what manner audit documentation shall be maintained, and what should be content mean, what should be included in it, and extent, what should be its range, which sort of matters should be included. in it. Okay. So that is the meaning of form, content, and extent of audit documentation. Now, Essay 230 states that form, content, and extent of audit documentation should be such that it should enable an experienced auditor having no connection with the audit to understand the nature, timing, and extent of audit procedures performed, the results of audit procedures performed, and audit evidence obtained. And third is significant matters arising during the audit and conclusions reached thereon. So I am going to repeat it again. So what should be the form, content, and extent of audit documentation, students? It should be, Essay 230 states that auditor shall prepare audit documentation that is sufficient to enable an experienced auditor having no previous connection with the audit to understand these following three things. Now, before we proceed further, who is an experienced auditor? What is the meaning of this word experienced auditor? Yes, any guesses, students? It is not written there in your module, but it is part of the essay. Essay 230 defines experienced auditor. So anyway, it is not going to be asked from you in the exams because it is not there in your module. But still, any guesses? What do we mean by experienced auditor? Yes, Tejaswin is saying who has done the audit previously. Anybody else? Yes, Tejaswin, you seem to be on the track, but not completely. Yes, experienced auditor. Just make wild guesses. Let your mind wander in different directions. Yes, Vesmita, yes, you're right. Who has practical audit experience? Dilip, an auditor who has previously performed audit. Working experience, yes, Bhaskar Das, that is also right. Sanya, who has knowledge of auditing. Well done, Sanya. Yes. The person who worked more in audit in past years, that is also on the track. Mahalakshmi and Sethi Pavan Kumar, previous auditor. That is again not proper choice of words. Pranav Natarajan, an auditor who has conducted audit for some years. Okay. So experienced auditor means simply a person who has practical audit experience and who has knowledge of standards on auditing, who has knowledge of auditing processes, who has knowledge of auditing procedures, and who has knowledge of say applicable financial reporting requirements or of the business requirements, business environment in which an entity operates. Yes, Neeruban, yes, that is also correct. No, Yogesh Singh, not internal auditor. Yes, Ritika, you are saying competent auditor. Yes, that is implied. So when we say experienced auditor, it means a person, simply said, it means a person who has experience in auditing, who has practical experience in auditing. Obviously, the one chap who has practical experience in auditing, he would be having knowledge of standards on auditing. He would also be having knowledge of audit procedures and audit processes. Clear to you guys what is the meaning of experienced auditor? So this term is used in text of essay 230. It is in the standard itself. So what should be the what should be the audit documentation like? The auditor shall prepare audit documentation that is sufficient to enable an experienced auditor who has no connection with the audit under consideration, okay, who has no previous connection with the audit, to understand the nature, timing, and extent of the audit procedures performed, the relevant audit evidence obtained, and significant matters which arose during the audit and conclusions reached by the auditor. It just means that by seeing the audit documentation, by seeing the audit file, uh, that person is in a position to know how the audit was conducted, which were the audit procedures performed by the auditor, what was their nature, like which substantive procedures were performed, who performed these procedures, and what was the range, how much sample was taken, okay, all these things. And by performing these procedures, what relevant audit was obtained, and on the basis of audit evidence obtained, what conclusions did the auditor reach, which significant matters came to his notice, and after perusing those significant matters, how did he arrive at the conclusions? Clear, guys? So three things again you have to remember. This is important from examination point of view. Form, content, and extent of audit documentation. Clear? So further, in documenting the nature, timing, and extent of audit procedures, while auditor would be making a record of the nature, timing, and extent of audit procedures, he shall record these three things. Again, these are very important. Number one, the identifying characteristics of specific items or matter tested. Like which matters were tested by him, like the auditor verified sales. Okay, so how he verified sales, what were the characteristics of the item tested, whether he choose, how sample was chosen, okay, how many number of items were verified. So these kind of things. Who performed the audit work and the date such work was completed. So like some team member is doing, say, verification of expenses. Okay, so responsibility is fixed on that team member for verification of expenses. And when did he complete the work? Who reviewed the audit work performed? It means that whatever work was performed by say junior team member, that work was reviewed by him. Who oversaw that work? Who supervised that work? That he performed the work in accordance with the necessary instructions, and date and extent of such review, and when did such a review was carried out, whether all factors were taken into consideration while carrying out such a review. Review means just when somebody has performed the work, then you once again broadly go through the work which has been performed by some other person. Clear, students? So all these first 3 points and these second set of 3 points are also important. that in documenting the nature, timing, and extent of audit procedures, the auditor shall record, he shall document these three things. Number one, the identifying characteristics of specific items or matters tested, which items were tested or verified by him, their specific characteristics, their identifying characteristics, who performed the audit work and date when such work was performed, date when such work was completed, and who reviewed the audit work performed and date and extent of such review. Clear? So the auditor shall document discussions of significant matters with management, including the nature of significant matter discussed and when and with whom the discussions took place. So if there is any some significant matter, some important matter which arose during the course of audit, and say uh, the management expressed its own point of view on those matter, on such matter, so uh, it shall be documented that such a significant matter was discussed, and it was discussed with Mr. So and so, who holds this position in the entity. As Tejaswin, you are saying matters tested. Can we return assertions of financial statement tested should be recorded? Yes, the meaning of that is same. It is nothing wrong, Tejaswin. But if the question is specific in relation to audit documentation, my advice would be to write these words. But whatever you are stating is also not wrong. Yes. So the form, content, and extent of audit documentation is also dependent upon many factors, like size and complexity of the entity, like how large the organization is, how large an entity is, or how complex its operations are. Say it is a standalone entity, or it is a holding company, it is having some subsidiaries, it is operating in a single location, or it is operating in many locations, its presence is restricted in one country, or it is an MNC, it is having a global presence. So obviously audit documentation is going to be dependent upon all such factors, and nature of audit procedures performed. So what type of audit procedures were performed? The audit documentation is solely dependent upon that, because these procedures themselves, these have to be documented. So the identified risks of material misstatement, if in respect of if identified risk of material misstatement in respect of some assertions are lower, then audit documentation may take a different form, different shape, or where identified risk of material misstatements are higher, obviously the extent of audit procedures would be broader, would be larger. So the significance of audit evidence obtained. So whatever the audit evidence has been obtained, what is its significance? What is its importance? The nature and extent of exceptions identified. Exception means like you can correlate it the same thing, with the same concept which we studied in essay 505. Okay. So the need to document a conclusion on the basis for a conclusion not readily determinable. from the documentation of work performed, the audit methodology and tools used. That is also very important. How the audit was conducted, like say different type of tools like software tools which were used by the auditor. So audit documentation is going to be um, dependent upon these factors. Okay, so try to remember these points. Since this is a very short chapter, students, and as I told you at the beginning that it consists of only 20 odd pages, and one question is a must from this chapter. So obviously from 20 odd pages, you have to read every para, you have to read every line, because question can be picked up from any concept. Clear? So audit documentation may be recorded on paper or electronic or any other media. So it has to be documented. It may be put into writing on paper or in some electronic form or any other media. So some examples of audit documentation. Now, yes, students, now can you give some examples of audit working papers or audit documentation? Some names, yes. Can you give some names that this is part of audit documentation? Not from what is written in your module, just from your own logic. Yes, Pranav, you are saying audit report. Obviously, audit report, the auditor would be keeping. Yes, what else? Audit report would be part of the audit file. Yes, anybody else? Yes, Tejaswin, audit program is right. So audit program, because remember chapter 2, what was the meaning of audit program? It is a series of verification steps. So it shows a broad program. It shows steps which are to be taken for performing the audit, for verifying different items of assets, liabilities, income, and expenditure. Okay. Yes, confirmations, Vismita, you are also right. So confirmations received from the parties, these are also part of audit documentation. Audit plan, yes. And yes, Kasak, you are asking debit note or credit note is included. Yes, the auditor can include any extract as part of audit documentation, any paper which he finds useful as part of audit documentation. Okay, like a copy of account, like some invoices, like copies of some invoices, like copy of bank statement. Yes, he can keep it. Like some contracts, like some important agreements entered into with customers. Yes, all of you are stating correctly. Yes, Apurva Das, you are also correct. Dipali, Milli Agarwal, Neeru Ben. Okay. Yes, significant matters, responses from the management. Yes, Ankit Mishra, you are also stating correctly. So audit documentation include audit programs, analysis. These include. It doesn't mean that other things cannot be included. Okay. Issues memoranda means when the team when the team raises a formal issue with the client, with the management, by issuing a memorandum, that raising a query. Okay. Summaries of significant matters, correspondence with management, including email concerning significant matter, checklists. That is also correct. Letter of confirmation and representation. So next question, that is important, students, and which you have to remember, is timing of audit documentation. Now, can you think logically, students? When audit documentation has to be prepared, when audit documentation has to be prepared, at what time audit documentation has to be prepared? Now, yes, Kasak, you are saying before 30th September. First of all, now see, we are not talking in the context of companies only. We are talking in the context of entities as a whole. Okay. Pranav, you are saying as and when significant audit evidence is obtained during audit report preparation. Kiran Kumar ji, you are saying. Yes, Tejaswin, yes, you are right. At each step when assertions are being checked. That is correct. Sanya, not only at the stage of planning. So, students, one thing you have to understand, that audit documentation has to be prepared at each step as the audit progresses. So it is not that you conduct the audit and you complete the audit and then you can prepare proper and adequate documentation. So the documentation has to be prepared as the audit progresses, right from the planning stage, right from the time identifying the risks of material misstatement, and right from the time when test of controls are performed, substantive audit procedures are performed, audit evidence is obtained, and conclusions are reached by the auditor. So all processes, at all stages, the audit documentation is to be made. So why there is a requirement to prepare audit documentation as audit progresses? Yes. Any reasons, guys, which comes to your mind? Any reason which comes to your mind? Why is there a requirement that audit documentation is required to be made as the audit progresses? Yes. Can you think of some reason? Yes, Mahalakshmi, you are saying to keep track. Ritika, for the sake of accuracy. Yes, well done, Ritika. Yes, for the sake of accuracy. Yes, for accurate record, Raman Tambia. Yes, Tejaswin and Pranav, you are also right. So, students, you have to understand that if we are performing some procedure as part of audit, and if we record it simultaneously when procedure is being performed or within a short duration, so obviously we would be in a position to record the results more accurately, because we observed some process, and we can in a if we are in a position in a short time to record those results in writing, so it is more likely that whatever is being recorded would be accurate, instead of, say, if we would be recording it 3 months later or 4 months later. Okay. Yes, Pranav, you are right. All of you are stating correctly. So because, say you attended physical inventory count. Okay. So obviously it makes sense to record the results of physical inventory count. What were your observations? Which type of inventory did you verify? On which date you carried out that procedures? How many, say, how many boxes or how many bales, whatever the units, did you verify? Did you verify? And so all these kind of things. So these type of observations, when documented simultaneously, when documented at the time when these were taken, these are likely to be more accurate. Yes, students, clear? So timely preparation of audit documentation. The auditor shall prepare audit documentation on a timely basis. Preparing sufficient and appropriate audit documentation on a timely basis helps to enhance, it helps to increase the quality of audit and facilitates the effective review and evaluation of the audit evidence obtained and conclusions reached before the auditor's report is finalized. So it helps in all these things in evaluating the audit evidence. Documentation prepared after the audit work has been performed. If you prepare the audit documentation after the audit work has been completed, it is likely to be less accurate than documentation prepared at the time such work is performed. So this is the crux of whole thing. Yes, clear, students? So audit documentation has to be prepared on a timely basis. Remember, this is very important, and it is not that we finish an assignment and then we go on to prepare audit documentation work. Yes. So next topic is audit file. Now again, students, I would ask from you, what is an audit file? Again, without seeing from contents of your module, tell me what is an audit file? Yes, Vismita, where all audit documentations are kept, all documentation is maintained. The report which is being not only report, Tejaswi, it would be containing a lot of things apart from the report. Yes, Ritika and Vismita, yes, you are right. So one point, students, you are missing from this is storage of records. Yes, all of you are B. Kiran Kumar ji, you are also writing correctly. So audit file is specific to a particular engagement. So for one audit, there would be an audit file. Yes, all documents in folder. Yes, Neeru Ben, you are also saying correctly. So audit file may be defined as one or more folders or other storage media in physical form or electronic form. So it can be in physical form or electronic form, like because we had learned that audit working papers, these can be in physical form or these can be in electronic form, containing the records that comprise the audit documentation for a specific engagement in relation to a particular engagement. Clear, students? Now, one thing is assembly of the final audit file. Now, this topic is also important, and sometimes we get confused between preparing audit documentation on timely basis and assembly of final audit file. What is the difference between the two? Yes. Can you think over? What is the difference between the two? Maintaining audit documentation on a timely basis and assembly of final audit file. What is the meaning of assembly, students? What is the meaning of assembling? Yes, assembling is gathering all the relevant folders that are part of the audit file. Pranav, yes. Probably again the choice of words is not proper. Yes, anybody else? What do we understand by assembling? Yes, gather, Dilip, yes, right. Maintaining means to just have record, by assembling means to arrange. Yes, Sanya, that is also correct. Yes, Tambeshwari, audit documentation on timely basis and thereafter assembly of the final audit file. Yes. So assembling means like you have conducted the audit and you have prepared the audit documentation. Now your audit has been completed. You have issued the audit report. But still there is some papers have to be arranged, or some rough work sort of work that has to be excluded, some duplicate papers which were not needed, these are not required to be placed in the audit file, some irrelevant material which has no connection with the audit evidence is all is required to be excluded. So such type of work falls within the meaning of assembling. So when we use the word assembly of audit file, it means precisely this, as Tambeshwari has written correctly, that audit documentation has to be prepared timely, in a timely manner as the audit progresses, and thereafter comes the final assembly of the final audit file. So it is stated that an appropriate time limit. So this is important, students, from examination point of view. Many times question has come on this. An appropriate time limit for within which to complete the assembly of the final audit file is ordinarily not more than 60 days after the date of auditor's report. So after the audit report has been signed, it means whatever the date is affixed on the audit report, so appropriate time limit in which this process of assembling the final audit file should be completed is not more than 60 days after the date of auditor's report. And some more things. The completion of assembly of the final audit file after the date of auditor's report is an administrative process. It is only an administrative work. It is only an administrative process. You are not inducting fresh evidence. You are not obtaining fresh evidence at the time of assembly of final audit file, because the audit report has already been issued. So the completion of assembly of final audit file after the date of audit report is an administrative process that doesn't involve the performance of new audit procedures or drawing of new conclusions. So again, very important, guys. It is just an administrative task to arrange the things, to arrange the records. Okay. Yes, Ankit Mishra, you are also right. Yogesh Singh, you are also correct. So changes may, however, be made to the audit documentation if they are purely administrative in nature. Okay, like of the sort of changes which I told you, deleting or discarding superseded documentation. Like it may so happen that you carried out some analysis, and later on, in light of some new information, you revise that analysis. So it doesn't make sense to keep that old paper, that superseded paper, as part of audit documentation. So you would be keeping that final document which supports your conclusions. Yes, 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 Tejaswin. So sorting, collating, and cross-referencing working paper. So sorting means arranging, collating, and cross-referencing. So if you Cross-referencing means like say one working paper is used to refer to another working paper. So you are stating that this thing is stated there. Okay. Signing off on some checklist, say some signing, you failed to sign some audit working papers. So this can be done. So documenting audit evidence that the auditor has obtained, discussed with the relevant members of engagement team, and before the date of auditor's report. So there was some, say, sort of analysis which was not put into writing, but which um, which justified the conclusions on the basis of which audit report was issued. So these kind of things can be done. So after the assembly of final audit file, the auditor shall not delete or discard audit documentation of any nature before the end of its retention period. Now, what is retention period? Yes, Kasak superseded documentation I have already explained to you by giving an example. Say you made an analysis, you did some working, okay, and later on that working was revised by you in light of some new information. Then you superseded that analysis yourself. So you don't want to keep that document which doesn't support your conclusions. Yes, Kasak, is it clear to you? So what is retention period? No, we are not talking about number of years. I am just asking from you students is what does the term basically mean? Yes, anyone? Retention. What is the meaning of the of word retention? Yes, Pranav. Yes, you're right. The time for which it is retained. To retain, like, yes, Tejaswin, like we retain registers. Yes, keeping for historical records. Yes, Yogesh Singh, you are right. So SQC1 standard on quality control, which you would be reading in chapter 11, it states that it requires firms to establish policies and procedure. Firms means audit firms, to establish policies and procedures for retention of engagement documentation, that they should establish systems, procedures and policies in their setups for retention of engagement documentation. So the retention period for audit engagements ordinarily is no shorter than 7 years from the date of auditor's report. That is also important, students. It has to be kept as a record for a period of 7 years from the date of auditor's report, or if later the date of group auditor's report, like when consolidated financial statements are to be prepared, then from the 7 years from the date of group auditor's report. So these both factual timelines are important to remember. One is 60 assembly of final audit file, 60 days after the date of audit report, and engagement document retention is period of 7 years from the date of auditor's report, or if later the date of group auditor's report. If the group audit report is of later date, then it would be counted from the date of group auditor's report. Clear, students? Documentation of significant matters and related significant professional judgments. Now, we have studied, we have learned that auditor has to document significant matters. Now, yes, what could be such significant matters? Yes, students, think over it. What could be significant matters? No, no, here, Pranav, you just can't write the definition of materiality. Yes, Amit Biswas, yes, misstatements. That is correct. Anybody else? So examples of significant matters include matters that give rise to significant risks, like results of audit procedures indicating that financial statements could be materially misstated, or there is a need to revise the auditor's previous assessment of risk of material misstatement and auditor's responses to those risks, like something during the course of audit, some new information has come to the light, and earlier his risk assessment was low, and now in light of new information, risk assessment is high. So he may have to revise his testing, his methodology, his procedures. So circumstances that cause the auditor significant difficulty in applying necessary audit procedures. So if during the course of audit, auditor face some difficulty in applying the audit procedures, so this is also an example of significant matter which should be included in audit documentation. So any sort of findings which could result in the modification of audit opinion. Now, any such things which can result in the modification of audit opinion, like in certain circumstances where the auditor issues a qualified opinion, adverse opinion, or disclaimer. All these things you would be reading in chapter 8 on audit report. Okay. So all these are examples of significant matters which should be included in audit documentation. And students, there is another term, completion memorandum or audit documentation summary. So it is nothing but just a summary of some important points observed during the course of audit and how these were addressed. So besides keeping all the audit documentation, auditor also maintains a summary of the important points. So it is called as completion memorandum or audit documentation summary, as the name suggests. Okay. So it describes significant matters identified during the audit and how they were addressed. That these were, say, 4 or 5 matters, important matters, which were identified, and this is how we tested those matters. This is how we designed our procedures. This is how we tested those matters, and this is how we reached conclusions. So main for some matters. So again, you have to remember the terminology. The word used here is audit documentation summary or completion memorandum. So as the name suggests, completion memorandum or audit documentation summary. It is not to be confused with issues memoranda, which we have uh, studied as part of audit documentation. That is something else. That term was issues memoranda. When the audit team identifies some issues and it raises a query, it issues a memorandum. Here it is completion memorandum. Okay. So how does such a summary helps? Such a summary helps in effective and efficient review and inspection of audit documentation, particularly for large and complex audits. Okay. So say when the client is very large, it has many branches, or it is working in diverse fields, it has many different line of activities. So maintaining such audit documentation summary or completion memorandum would definitely help the auditor in explaining the things if such need arises, because it is a sort of executive summary. So if you see some government report, etc., you would find a page high under the heading executive summary. So on similar lines, in audit we have audit documentation summary. Okay. And there is another pertinent question relating to audit documentation, students. That is, who owns audit documentation? My simple question to you is, who owns audit documentation? Yes, anyone? Only one response. Many more have come. Yes, all of you are stating correctly, students. Well done. So auditor owns audit documentation. It is the property of the auditor. No, Dilip, it is not the property of client. Audit documentation is the property of the auditor. He may at his discretion, he may at his choice, he may at his will make portions or extracts from audit documentation available to the clients. Depending upon his wisdom, depending upon his choice, he may give extracts, means some parts of audit documentation or some portions. It is not that he would give complete audit file to the client. Okay. Provided such disclosure doesn't undermine independence of the auditor or validity of work performed. Okay, so it should not in any manner um, reduce the independence of auditor or whatever, or reduce or validity of the work performed, of the audit work performed. So always remember that audit documentation is the property of the auditor. It belongs to the auditor. It is the baby of auditor. You can remember that way. Yes. Now see this question, students. Test your understanding one. Do not see the answer given at the end. Just write from your on logic. Yes, Tejaswin, we shall be solving MCQs. After the break, we shall be solving some MCQs. Just see, test your understanding one, and try to think in your own way how you would go about writing answer to this question. So I'll read the question for you. During the course of audit of a company, an issue arose like how interest expenditure on restructured loans, on loans which have been restructured by the bank, how these should be treated in books of accounts. Okay, what should be their accounting treatment? So like you can understand that auditor had a certain point of view. So this important matter was discussed with CFO and was properly resolved. Is it necessary for auditor to include it in working papers? Yes, 2, 3 answers have come. Ritika, Kiran Kumar Ji and Tejaswin, Dilip. What about others? Yes, Malappa, Amit, Tambeshwari, Niruban, you have given the answer. So guys, it is a significant matter because say on restructured loans, the interest costs would be impacting the financial statements. Their correct treatment would be impacting the financial statements, would be impacting the financial results. So this matter was discussed with CFO of the company and was resolved. Although it was resolved, so the auditor would include it as part of his audit documentation uh, to justify that look, this matter was discussed and this type of treatment was justified by the management, and it would go on to prove that in fact this matter was pointed out and this was the reply of the management. So it would provide evidence both the ways. Okay. So it is a significant matter. Yes, Vismita, you are also right. Now see, test your understanding too. Read this. Yes. Now you can read it. Now read all the lines, every word carefully. Should I read the question for you guys? So CA Sonali has completed audit of a listed company. So she has completed the audit. Audit report has been issued of dated 15 July 2022. However, audit working papers have not been properly assembled. So more than 6 months have passed after issue of audit report, and then she got a letter from the regulator in connection with the audit of company to share the copy of audit file. Now the regulator has asked her to share the copy of audit file. Now in a quite hurry, she assembled the audit file and inserted some more papers which were necessary. She, however, put current date on these inserted papers, and copy of audit file was sent to regulator. Discuss the issues involved. So on the face of it, you can very well understand that she is not on the right track. CA Sonali is not on the right track. But the question asks you to identify which are the issues involved in context of audit documentation. Yes, what are the issues involved? Yes, Kasak, you have stated correctly. Others, yes, Kasak, you are saying audit documentation should be prepared on timely basis. So uh, this is connected to the point where she is inserting some more papers, which are necessary. So it means that audit documentation was not prepared on a timely basis. And another issue which Dilip has pointed out, that audit file has to be assembled within 60 days after the issue of audit report. Now, date of the audit report is 15 July, and it is stated in this question that more than 6 months have passed. So, assembly of the audit file has to be completed after no later than 60 days after the date of auditor's report. Okay. Now, Ankit, retention, there is no issue of retention here. The question is not talking about retention. Yes, Ankit, is it clear to you? Yes, Vismita, you are also right. Delay in assembling the documentation. Delay in assembling final audit file. So try to use proper word. Now, final audit file has to be assembled. So this precision, students, comes to you, choice of correct words comes to you when you revise the chapter, revise the term twice or thrice. Then your mind uh, tries to differentiate between the finer differences. Yes, time period of assembly of final audit file, it is correct. Pavan Kumar, Sethi Pavan Kumar, yes. So let us see what is stated in your answer. Here also it is written that these two issues are identified. An appropriate time limit within which to complete the assembly of final audit file is ordinarily not more than 60 days after the date of auditor's report. Further, issue of sufficient and appropriate audit documentation on timely basis is necessary to enhance the quality of audit and effective review and evaluation of audit evidence obtained. So these two issues are involved. In the given case, even after passage of more than 6 months, she has not assembled the audit file. Besides, she has put in some papers with current date, which is not permissible at all. It shows that part of audit documentation has been prepared afterwards, putting a question mark on the quality of audit. Yes, it is an administrative process, Yogesh Singh. So remember this point, and the retention of documents is something different. It means that audit file has to be retained for how much period? That is for a period of 7 months, 7 years, sorry. Beg your pardon, guys. Not 7 months, 7 years. 7 years. Okay. Yes, probably Ankit, you had written this. Is it clear to you the difference between assembly of final audit file and the retention period? Yes. Yes, Ankit, is the point clear to you? Ankit Mishra. Okay. So guys, we shall take a break of 10 minutes and then we shall be back after 10 minutes. Yes, Manishji, break for 10 minutes. Okay. Welcome back, students. So you can see a case study which is there in your module. So we shall be first doing this case study. So first read this case study, which is a very short and crisp one, and then we will come to the questions. So CA Rajan is heading the engagement team conducting audit of a company. While audit is in progress, consider following issues regarding audit documentation. Audit program was prepared, assigning responsibilities for different type of works to be performed to team members. So when audit program was prepared, work was assigned to different team members. The engagement team consists of 4 members. One is Mohit, CA final student, Rohit, CA final student, Shobit, paid CA, and CA Rajan, who is the partner of audit firm. So there were 4 members in this audit team. So the team has determined materiality for financial statements as a whole. The team has assessed risk of material misstatements to be low. CA Shobit, who is a paid assistant, is responsible for attending inventory count process and putting down its documentation part. During the course of audit, many related party transactions have come to notice. So these brief facts are given in this short case study. So yes, guys, have you read it? Should I scroll up the page? Scroll down the page, sorry. So 4 or 5 things are there that many related party transactions have come to notice. The materiality was determined. CA Shobit is responsible for attending inventory count, and assessed risk of material misstatement was low, and the audit was prepared using audit program was assigning responsibilities for different types of works to be performed by team members. Now see question number 1. Work relating to verification of revenue was assigned to Mohit in audit program. However, it is being performed by Rohit actually. So in audit program, responsibility was given to Mohit to verify revenue, whereas it was actually performed by Rohit. Verification of trade receivable was planned to be carried out by Rohit, but it is being performed by CA Rajan due to last minute practical issues. So there were some practical issues, and due to which the responsibilities were changed. So fundamentally question is stating these facts that certain responsibilities which were provided for in the audit program, actually these were changed during the actual conduct of the audit. So which of the following statements is most appropriate in this regard relating to audit documentation? Yes, guys. A, B, C, or D? Just give your answers, guys. Just one response has come. Yes, few more responses have come. Dilip, Tejaswin, Niruban, Tambeshwari, Sanya. And what about others, guys? There are 45 participants, students. Yes, students, what should be the answer to this question number 1? Now, Pranav, probably you have changed your viewpoint. Earlier you had written A, now you are writing B. Yes, many students have written C. Sanya, you have written A. And I hope, students, that you are not seeing the answers from the solutions, because it is not going to affect me if you are copying the answers from the solutions. You are going to repent it in your exams. Vismita is also writing A. Yes, now fairly good number of students have answered. So students, those of you who are writing A, I would like to ask, what is your reason of writing answer A? Like Vismita and Sanya, why you are writing A? Paranjali, now you are also writing A. If in the audit program names of some persons were there who were supposed to perform some verification steps, who were supposed to perform some work, but during the course of actual audit, these works were performed by somebody else. So, is this factor uh, to be ignored totally while preparing audit documentation? Now, while understanding meaning of audit documentation and while understanding the form, content, and extent of audit documentation, we understood that it has to be maintained in such a manner that it would enable an experienced auditor who doesn't have any connection with this audit to understand the nature, timing, and extent of audit procedures performed. And we had also read that while documenting nature, time, and extent of audit procedures, it would be documented that which audit procedures were performed by whom. So if something is written in the audit program and now something else is happening actually, so isn't it necessary to update that audit program, to put a note or to put some paper that due to these difficulties, this work was actually performed by this instead of this, so that a person who doesn't have previous connection with the audit, he sees the working papers, so he gets the impression, he gets a knowledge of who performed the work. And we also learned that audit documentation helps in fixing the responsibilities. So if it is not stated in the audit documentation, that which work was performed by whom, it is not correctly written, then how responsibilities can be fixed? So correct answer is option C. It is necessary that audit program be suitably updated or notes are given in working papers to this effect so that planned duties are in accordance with the actual work performance. Yes, is it clear to you, Vismitha, Paranjali, and Pranav? Okay, so now we move on to question number 2. As regards materiality, which of the following statements is most appropriate in context of audit documentation? Now you have read in uh, your chapter 3 that materiality has to be documented. Now which of the following options is correct? Which of the following options is most appropriate? Yes, only two responses have come. Yes. So all of you are writing correctly. Answer is C. Materiality arrived on basis of professional judgment along with factors considered in the determination has to be documented. Factors are also necessary to be documented as you have learnt in your chapter 3. Number 3, as regards team's assessment that risk of material misstatement is low, which of the following statements is odd one? It means which is not true, which is odd one out, which is strange, which is weird, relating to documentation of risk. Now, assessment of risk has also to be documented. Now, which statement is out of the context? Question number 3. Which statement is out of the context? Which statement is not synchronized with the risk of with the concept of documenting risk of material misstatements? Yes, only Ritika has answered. Yes, students, come fast. That's not difficult. These are very easy questions. Yes, the answer is D. Precise calculation of risk of material misstatement has to be documented. So Dilip, you have forgotten chapter 3. We have read in chapter 3 that it is not possible to make precise calculation of risk of material misstatement. It depends upon the professional judgment of auditor. It is not that some risk has to be calculated mathematically. It is not possible to measure. So this is wrong. Point A, B, C, all are correct. Discussion among engagement team members and significant decisions have to be reached, which are reached. This is again, these all 3 points are there in essay 315. Yes, see fourth. Now we had gathered from the case study that CA Shobhit is responsible for attending physical inventory count of the company. Which of the following is not true? Which of the following is false in this regard relating to audit documentation? Which of this is false? Yes, only two responses have come, Ritika and Tejaswin. Yes, any other responses? Yes, quite. I think 10, 12 responses have come. Sanya, Kiran Kumar, Kasak, Nancy. Yes. Yes, Ankit, your chat is visible. All chats, all your responses are visible. So yes, some of you students, Seti, Pavan Kumar, Kasak, and Sanya, Vismita, you are writing A. So I fail to understand why you are writing A. What is the confusion? Why you guys are writing A? We have to state what is false. Date on which physical inventory count process was attended by him should be documented. Is it not necessary that a particular person attended physical inventory count? It is very much the part of form, content, and extent of audit documentation. It may also include, although it is necessary, but it also serves as an evidence. If we include some photographs of the inventory count process being carried on, that it is again a proof, an evidence. There is nothing wrong in it. So, but option D, is the correct option. This is false. Reports showing that stocks conform to quality control standards in accordance with law. So if some product is in accordance with the quality control standard described by some regulation, now we are talking about not about quality control standards of audit, but these are quality control standards of product, whether the thickness of say particular product is of a particular benchmark or not. How an audit of financial statements is concerned with that? Should I keep it as part of audit documentation? How it would lead to misstatements? Now this is the yes. Yes, guys, you understand those of you who are writing option A, Sanya, and all these detail of test counting undertaken should form of audit documentation. Yes, how test counting was conducted, who conducted, what were the details. Detail of obsolete goods should form part of audit documentation. That is also true. Yes, is it clear to you guys? Sanya, is it clear to you? Yes, now we move to question number 5. As regards related party transactions, which of the following should not be part of audit documentation? Yes, all of you are writing correctly. Option is D. There is because related party transactions we have read in earlier also, and we have also learnt in SA 550 that these are carried out at arm's length price at the same distance at which the entity would have entered into transactions with some third parties. So obviously management representation letter is needed that all the related party transactions have been disclosed. Related party transaction policy of the company is also part of audit documentation. So documentation to show that such transaction at arm's length basis, this is also correct. So option D is the uh, there is no such thing, and this should not be the part of audit documentation. Okay. Now some MCQs, very straight MCQs. Yes. Come on, students, come fast and tell which of the following statement is appropriately suited to preparation of audit documentation. Yes. At least after attending this class and after devoting half day, I think this chapter should be cemented like anything in your minds. Still some wrong answers on this very question. Oh my God. Still you are writing wrongly, students, few of you. Read the question carefully. Students, this is the mistake you are making in the exams because you are not reading the questions carefully. You are not seeing what is the requirement of the question, what the question is precisely asking for. You are just plainly giving the answers. If you find something familiar, you are taking that. Yes, so many of you, although have answered correctly also. Ankit, Mishra, Dipali, Tambeshwari, Raman, Mahalakshmi, Vismita, all of you have answered correctly. But tell me, Neeru Ben, how you have answered it? And Tambeshwari, you had also first given option B. How you can give guys option B as the answer? Ankit, yes, option A is the right. You have given the answer correct. And Kasak, how you are stating B? Audit documentation has to be prepared 60 days after the date of audit report. Now, I was telling you that only assembly of audit file, only assembly of final audit file has to be made within 60 days from the date of audit report. Audit documentation is to be prepared on a timely basis as we perform the audit procedures. Like we took a sample, we tested some items, then we shall document that we performed this work. We shall not document it after the audit report has been issued. No, there is a lot of difference, Tambeshwari. Now you are saying that I thought assembly. So what would happen in the exams? Then you would also write that I thought so, such thing. No, you can't think so creatively. Try to read the question. What is the demand of the question? What the question precisely requires you to answer? And what are the options involved? Merely because some option you have read, it is not that it would be correct in the context of the question. Yes, now second question is straight. Yes. So this one, all of you have answered correctly till now. Yes. All of you have answered correctly. So option is B. So audit documentation is owned by auditor. This is the right option. Which of the following is least likely to be included? Least likely to be included in audit documentation of a company engaged in manufacturing and export of goods, least likely to be included. There are very remote chances that it would be included. Yes. Yes. Question number 3, guys. 5, 6 responses have come. Yes, so many of you have answered correctly, but still there are some wrong answers given. Like some have stated that B is the right choice, but this is not the right choice. Answer is C. See, this concept you would be reading in next chapter as part of essay 570. Previous year audit financial statements, these are part of audit documentation. Now, going concern assumption whether the whether the company is capable of continuing its business, and whether the going concern assumption followed by it is proper or not. So management provides projected cash flow statement for next 12 months in support of the going concern assumptions as provided for in essay 570 um, under circumstances which are discussed in essay 570. So statements showing dispatch of overseas consignments in accordance with delivery schedules. Now, what this has to do with the audit of financial statements? That if my buyer, I am an export company engaged in manufacturing of goods, and my buyer ordered some goods, say, and these were likely to be dispatched on, say, 15th of July, but these were dispatched on 20th of July or 10th of July. How auditor is concerned with these things? So it is likely to be least likely to be included. Okay, so such things are normally not these are such things with which an auditor is not normally concerned with. So answer is option C. So Paranjali, Pranav, is it clear to you? Paranjali, Pranav, is it clear to you? Question number 4. Which of the following? So students, you would see all these audit documentation questions. These also relate to your knowledge of what you have gained in previous chapters. Like this question relates to chapter 4. Okay. So which of the following is false in relation to audit documentation when an external auditor relies upon work of an internal auditor? So when an external auditor relies upon the work of an internal auditor, so certain things he has to see, he has to evaluate, for which he would be documenting those things if he wants to rely upon the work of internal auditor. Which of the following is false in relation to audit documentation when an external auditor relies upon work of internal auditor? Yes. Yes, students. Yes. You are writing correctly. Answer is option D. Because the risk assessment, the internal auditor is not supposed to give recommendation for risk assessment to external auditor. So what documentation is to be made? So all other options are correct. These are all are true as provided for in essay. Tell me quickly essay number. When an external auditor uses the work of internal auditor, which essay applies? Yes, tell me the essay number, students. You have read it in chapter 4. So simultaneously, you should always revise this way, students. Like you are doing some question and that relates to some topic. So just try to make sure that name of the relevant essay pops up in your mind. Yes, Tejaswin, Pranav, you are right. It is essay 610. And Tambeshwari, how you are writing essay 520? How you can even do that? 520 relates to substantive analytical procedures. It relates to analytical procedures. Yes, Vismita, Ritika, you are also right. Yogesh Singh. No, no, Niru ban, it is not 505. बाबा अभी आपको ऐसे नंबर भी याद नहीं हुआ. You have to put a lot of hard work, Niru ban. So let us do some more MCQs on this chapter. Yes. See question number 1. Yes, all of you are writing correctly. All of your answer is right. So this option D, this is the right choice. It is not likely to be an example of audit documentation because not connected with the audit of financial statements. How, Ankit, you are writing C? Ankit Mishra, how you are stating C is the right choice? And Malappa, how you are writing C? Response to external confirmation request. This is very much part of audit documentation. When you are sending external confirmation request and you get a response, isn't it a part of your working paper? It is the relevant audit evidence you have obtained. And it is on this basis that you would be reaching some conclusions and you would be forming opinion. How you can write it? Correct answer is option D. Yes, is it clear to you? Ankit Mishra, is it clear to you? Now see question number 2. Yes, everyone is writing correctly. Answer is option A. It is not purpose of audit documentation that he gets rid of his responsibility. No, this is not purpose. So all these three are right. Okay. Tambeshwari, how you are writing option C? No, that's wrong. And Amit Biswas, you are writing D. How it is D? So these are very much uh, purposes of audit documentation as per SA 230 to enable conduct of quality control reviews that whether the audit firm has performed the audit work qualitatively or not. This is part of the purposes of audit documentation as provided for in SA 230. Yes, form, content, and extent of audit documentation is not dependent upon. Yes, only one response has come from Bhumika Agarwal. Yes, third option C, how seniority of person affects the form, content, and extent of audit documentation. It doesn't affect at all. Rather, audit methodology and tools used, these affect form, content, and extent of audit documentation. Like if the auditor is using some tools, some softwares, So the form and content of the audit documentation could be different. Kasak, you have answered it wrongly. The right option is C. This is the right choice. So as you can see, in factors affecting the audit documentation, it is clearly written here in your module. Say the audit methodology and tools used. It is one of the factors affecting the form, content, and extent of audit documentation. Yes, Kasak, is it clear to you? Which of the following doesn't fall within the meaning of audit documentation? Question number 4. Which of the following doesn't fall within the meaning of audit documentation? Yes, option is A. All of you are writing correctly. Oral discussions, if not put into writing, if these are not documented, then it is not audit documentation. And what is fifth? Read question number fifth. That was slightly ticklish. And it is being reflected in your answers. Yes. Students, remember the answer is C. How you are writing A? This is wrong. Say again, remember, assembly of audit file is a different concept and retention of audit file is a different concept. Now, once you have assembled the audit file, then it is final. So you can't discard the papers before the end of retention period of life. File, sorry. So this option A is totally incorrect. He can discard papers before end of retention period of file. He can discard papers before sharing copy with regulator, meaning same things. He can discard papers in certain circumstances according to his judgment. These are also wrong. He can't discard the papers. Yes, there is a query from Rasak, probably. She is saying to explain the second true and false in the module. So what is that? Yes. Mr. A, statutory auditor of a company, the branch is audited by Mr. B, another CA. Mr. A requests the photocopies of audit documentation of Mr. B pertaining to branch audit. Yes. So what is the answer given? that audit documentation is a property of the auditor. So it is the property of auditor. If somebody else other than the auditor requests the extract of audit documentation, so it is not compulsory for the auditor to provide the copies of audit documentation. Okay. Yes. So is it clear to you, Kasak? Yes, Manish, you can also unmute if somebody wants to ask some question. Manish, ये unmute कर दें. Yes, guys. Yes, yes. Students, you want to ask some question relating to this topic, audit documentation? Any query, students? Otherwise, we are going to wind it up. So, students, we shall be starting a new chapter on Thursday. That is chapter 7, completion and review. Completion and review, new chapter, chapter number 7. So it is comprising of few essays, essay 560, 570, essay 580, 260, 265. So it has got 4-5 essays included in it. So we shall be starting this new chapter. So do come in large numbers to understand the finer points of this chapter. Okay, guys. So it's over for today. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the cooperation. So we'll meet again on Thursday. Yes, yes.